Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to see that you were able to find the location since we had changed the venue, but it was well published. And thanks to Ms. Owens, she even did a little bit more today. So we're glad that you're here to be with us. Would you please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Do we have any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda? No. Seeing none, we'll move on then. Superintendent, approval of the minutes.
Recommend approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting, June 10th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Just want to make sure y'all's in order. All right. Next, we have representation of gold and silver awards. And I've been asked to ask everyone that comes to the microphone to speak, please speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear. Yeah, it's fine.
And I'm going to ask that the superintendent join us, please. The foundation serves as a liaison with the Florida Department of Education for awards, and one of our awards is the Gold and Silver School Award, and it's an effort to recognize excellent programs which promote parent and community involvement in education. The Gold Award is presented to recognize elementary, secondary, and adult schools that meet the following criteria. A minimum of 80% of the school staff participating in training related to school volunteerism. A school volunteer coordinator is designated for each recruitment, placement, and training and supervision. The total number of hours in volunteer service equals twice the number of students enrolled at that school. Last year, Lake County had 21 gold winners. This year, I'm pleased to announce that we have 26. This is a 24% increase. So congratulations. Sherry Owens has asked that once you receive your certificate, if you would go outside for a photo. This room is a lot smaller than we normally have, and we normally don't have 26. So from Astatula Elementary, we have Andrea Bonvento and Amy Morsinkas as representatives. I think Sherry has asked that they go out for a photo. Beverly Shores Elementary, we have Cindy Christitas as principal. From Claremont Elementary, we have Jeff Williams, principal, and Jennifer Gerditis, the one who did all the work. From Cypress Ridge Elementary, we have Scott Valco, principal. Eustis Heights Elementary, Tiffany Scott, principal. From Fruitland Park Elementary, we have Tammy Langley, principal. From Grassy Lake, we have Julie Williams, principal. From Groveman Elementary, we have Rihanna Alninas and assistant principal. And I bet I butchered that, so I'm sorry. From Imagine South Lake, we have Courtney Flood. From Leesburg Elementary, we have Susan Jordan, principal. From Lost Lake Elementary, we have Katie Pinkston and Scott Clark, assistant principal. From Mascot Charter, we have Radine Johnson, assistant principal. Mineola Charter, we have Kim Dyson, assistant principal. Mount Dora High School, one of two high schools that have achieved this honor, Dr. Kathy Slack, assistant principal. Pinecrest Lakes Academy, Christina Alcade. Thank you. From Pine Ridge Elementary, Courtney Franklin. Grimes Early Learning, Greg Dudley. Okay. Round Lake Charter, Tish Sanders. Sawgrass Bay, Andrea Steinken, principal. Sorrento Elementary, Brianna Burkhead, principal. Our second high school, Southlake High School, Steve Benson, principal. Tavares Elementary, is Dorinda? Yes. Dorinda McKinney, principal. Treadway Elementary, Dr. Vanessa King, principal. Triangle Elementary, Marlene Strawn, principal. Umatilla Elementary could not be with us this evening. Oh, they are here? Oh, okay, sorry. And then the Villages Elementary, Laura Sachs, assistant principal. And I think the impressive thing to remember from this presentation is that they had to double the volunteer hours as their students. So that's pretty impressive in 26 schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on now to our next agenda item is public input. And we have two cards. And the first one is Dr. Tibbetts. Now, Dr. Tibbetts, it looks to me like it says you're representing SEIU. You didn't hear that.
I didn't hear you, Sandy.
That's okay. I'll get you later. Or you will get me.
I have to be quick, Mr. Chairman and Superintendent Coordinator, board members. I have too many things to talk about. First of all, Sherry, wherever she is, what a great job last week of coverage in the paper. You would have even thought the superintendent was working last week with all the coverage we had in the newspaper. You talked today about portables. Let me tell you, get your public relations go around and take pictures of the wonderful portables here at headquarters and in all of your schools, and then have them go and do the same thing at the county facilities, in the new police forces, in the new fire halls, in the new libraries, and then have a public outing asking the public, and where's your priority? What do you think of our kids? You got a lot of property, sell it. We need the money. In 2007, they said sell it. probably a good decision not to sell it in 2007 when the market tanked, but now is the time. Mentioned briefly today AP courses in limited numbers of enrollment, and we might have to cut back because it wasn't cost effective. And boy, is that frightening when I look at the amount of money we spend for kids at the other end of the spectrum, that we would abandon those kids at the other end of the scale. Security training programs. It's on your agenda tonight. The state legislatures, in their wonderful wisdom, have outlined that you must provide a training program for your teachers, and it goes on and on and on about what it must include, including eating disorders. And this is under safety. Let me share with you one known fact about safety in the schools. We don't have to worry about women. No woman has ever walked into a school with a gun and shot somebody. So we don't really need to spend a lot of effort monitoring our female students. I hope you can get your cameras in place. Got 6 weeks with a new contractor, a lot of work to do in a very short period of time. The budget today, hearing today, was so elaborate and at the same time confusing. Good luck figuring all out what you got to do, but it's too much to do in one day. You guys need to figure out a better way to sort out your finances so that you can sit there and go through it and look at things like, I share one last thing. There was, and I didn't write it down, the difference between what we pay our food service workers and then what we pay for benefits is almost half of what we pay them in salaries. I really don't understand that one, nor did I understand how much money the school board has allocated to it, but that might have been my hearing that I missed all the money that the school board has. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mrs. Kagalis? Kagalis, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, I've heard worse.
That's all right, I have with my name too, so.
Thank you all so very much for having me here today. My name is Karen Kagalis. I'm with the 2020 Census with the U.S. Census Bureau. The office is in Atlanta, but I live here in Lake County. So Lake County is important to me. And the U.S. Constitution, just to give you a quick background, I'm sure you're all very familiar with it, but since 1790, the U.S. Constitution has required the national census every 10 years. And the goal of the census is to count every person living in the U.S. once, only once, and in the right place. The count helps determine how the nation allocates tax dollars to pay for services used by the entire local population. It's money, it's power, and it's jobs. It's safe and it's easy. But a lot of people don't know. They don't know that $675 billion goes to different programs, and the money follows the numbers, not the need. And that's Title I grants. These are all of these are population driven, and that's what decides how much money everything gets. For Title I grants to local education agencies, the National School Program, National School Lunch Program, special ed grants, Pell grants, Head Start, WIC, SNAP, foster care, adoption programs, Medicare to Medicaid, and everything in between. And kids have been historically undercounted for a number of reasons. And you as influencers and the room of influencers that just left all know so much more about the kids and their families than the average person does. And if anybody can reach out to them and tell them about the importance of it and take it home to mom and dad, the better. It also is a voice. It's power. And power is a voice. It determines how many seats Florida gets in Congress each year that represents us on the Hill. It also determines boundaries for state and local legislator and congressional districts, and also school districts. All come from the decennial census. Keep in mind that when our children are not counted when they're 6 years old, The count doesn't come around again for another 10 years. They don't count in the system for much of anything financial until they're 10 years later, 16, 17 years old. That's going to make a huge difference to the community and to what you have funded for. It's also jobs. They're recruiting now for temporary flexible jobs, $12 and up an hour. And if anybody's interested, or if you know anybody that's interested from now through probably spring or summer of next year, but now's the big focus, 2020census.gov/jobs at 1-855-JOB-2020. And of course, if you need any more information, you can get a hold of me anytime. It's safe because Title 13 protects all the personally identifiable information. Credit cards, driver's license, none of that goes. If there's anything that I can do to help, any questions that you have,
No, ma'am.
it would be wonderful to be able to talk to you further, to talk about getting census in the schools. I have packets there for you. On the left-hand side is all about census in the schools. It is a free program that is available to all of the school districts in the U.S., and on the right is more information about the census. I look forward to hearing from you and working with you to get the message out. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to reports. First up is our Educational Foundation, Ms. Carmen Cullen Fatt.
Thank you, Chairman, school board members, superintendent. Red for Ed, we have 125 locations across the county, and as a reminder, Red for Ed is a community-wide school supply and food collection drive. And at that 125 locations, there are actually 264 boxes out. And the Central Florida Cruisers are doing a poker run on July the 28th for the event, and they have 12 locations, and Kathy Smith from LCEA will be representing the foundation that day. Attendance at the backpack fairs has been declining, and this past year, less than 50% of the eligible recipients came out to one of the 3 fairs. This has been a trend that we've been watching for years, where we have 11,000 students in K through 5th that are eligible. Only about 3,200 return the request for school supplies and backpacks each year, and we're having 1,200 show up at the fair. We are going to look this year at doing it differently to see if it's a transportation issue with the parents. And we have taken the number of backpacks that we would typically buy each year, and we're distributing them starting next week directly to the elementary schools based on FTE. We'll still have tons of supplies in Apple Mart that's available for our social workers once school gets in. Doug Major was named the Department of Education Volunteer Coordinator for the month of June, and he had a nice write-up in their email blast. We're kicking off the employee giving campaign starting August 5th at all the faculty meetings around the county. And Red Apples Media is producing a video to show where the foundation invested $1,022,000 in our school last year that impacted 22,493 students, 173 teachers, and 476 district employees. That was $1,022,000, so we're proud of that. Dr. Joe Anderson from Anderson Pediatrics in Eustis, who is Tavares elementary, middle, and high school graduate, has practiced in Eustis, and last year he decided he wanted to select the foundation as his charitable beneficiary for a bowling tournament, and we thought, oh wow, $1,000. Well, $8,000 later, we were absolutely thrilled, and this year he has picked our Take Stock in Children program, and that tournament will be August the 3rd if any of you bowl. And Stepping Out is officially sold out. We do have some complimentary tickets for Thursday night, 40 of them to be exact, which will be given to our school family on a first-come, first-served basis. So if any of our teachers or district employees would like to come get a sneak preview on Thursday, please ask them to call the foundation office. Do we have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds great. Mr. Attorney? All right, moving on to unfinished business, there's nothing. New business, the consent agenda, business and support items. Superintendent, I didn't hear anybody pull anything, so go ahead.
Yeah, I recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 and 10.2 through 10.01.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. 11.01, the tentative approval of School Board Policy 3.10. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir. The matter before the board is tentative approval of School Board Policy 3.10, Administrative Organization. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy, please come forward to the podium at this time. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone come forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
All right. Board,
Superintendent.
go ahead.
Recommend tentative approval of School Board Policy 3.10.
So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 12.01, Superintendent's Report.
I want to first congratulate all of our Gold and Silver School Award winners, and very grateful to all of our school volunteers and the significant impact that they have on our students and our teachers. Also want to remind parents that might be looking for their child's final report card, those are available now on Skyward Family Access, and if anyone does not know how to access that, they can contact their school. There'll be somebody there who can help them to log in and get access to those report cards. And thank you to those of you who tuned in for our capital plan and budget workshop, and I want to thank Kelly Randall and Growth Planning for all her work in preparation for that, as well as our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Ward, for his work on our budget as we get deeper now into the budget process with more information coming back to the board. He's also been doing some interactive sessions within the community about how schools are funded, very informative, and we'll look forward to more participation in the months to come as he continues to roll out those informative sessions. He's also going to be doing the presentation on July the 16th at the Board of County Commissioners meeting at 9 o'clock. So I'll encourage those who haven't had a chance to see it maybe to come in or to the County Commissioners meeting or tune in to get more information on that. So that's all I have for tonight.
Any letters of condolence?
I do have some letters of condolence. Thank you for always reminding me. First of all, our condolences to Laura Sachs. She's the assistant principal at Villages Elementary. She was here this evening earlier. She lost her husband, Jerry, after a long-time illness. Also, John Davis, he had retired from capital project manager and master electrician in our maintenance department, and our condolences to his family. I know that Mr. Mathias represented the district and the board at that service last week, and thank you for attending on our behalf. And also to Don Hogan, our district athletic director. He lost his sister, Ann.
All right. Board members, you have comments?
I'm good.
I'm good as well, thank you.
I've got one thing, and the superintendent had referenced those interactive budget and finance presentations done by our assistant superintendent for business services, and I had the opportunity to attend one of those at Claremont Middle. I guess it was last week or the week before, and I can tell you, despite how much you think you know about the budget, it was very informative. I walked away with all sorts of nuggets of information and facts and figures that I wasn't necessarily aware of. But if you don't have as strong of a working knowledge of the budget as us board members, you probably have a lot of questions out there, right? Why is funding such a challenge? Look at this $500 million. Certainly the school district should operate easily. They should be rolling in the money, right? Well, you'll learn a lot from this presentation, understanding why just that isn't quite true. And I think the couple of folks who would significantly benefit from this, in addition to our county commission, might be the state legislators, particularly from Lake County. I think it would arm them with some good information as they help carry the torch for requests for funding for Lake County. Your presentation was great, so thank you for doing that.
The only comment I have is that, I brought up the best and the brightest, I don't know if it's called a scholarship, but it's basically a way for the state to avoid giving school boards funding so that they can then award bonuses instead of having school boards award raises or bonuses at a reasonable discretion within a negotiating, it's a way to avoid negotiating and avoid FRS. So I find it rather annoying and frustrating that our legislators feel a need to chronically underfund our schools. And I just wanted to say that it is in all of our best interests to have well-funded schools because those children become adults who then pay your Social Security, they pay taxes for their children and your children, and the children that we educate become caregivers in our communities, and they're the people that are putting in needles into your arm at the hospital, and those people matter. And it's just, I find it very frustrating, today's budget workshop, to see how desperately underfunded we are and how hard we're going to have to cut to be able to get to where we want to be. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. So on that note of sunshine for all of you, I will move on. Thank you.
I would just like to say real quickly that I appreciate Dr. Burns. She filled in for me in the last meeting there and did a very good job. I went online and watched it, and I was very impressed with everything that went on, and I appreciate it. Also, Mr. Mathias, I appreciate you representing the board for John Davis, and I made a phone call, and he said he'd be glad to do it. And anytime something like this happens, if a school board employee, retired or still working, if I know that there's a situation like this, if I can be there, I will be there. I was unable to be at this one, but Mr. Mathias was able to be there on behalf of the board, and I appreciate that very much. And on that, thank you for being here this evening. We're adjourned.